Welcome back, guys. This is VIN 1908. This is a 2016 083, which is ultra white with LA30 interior, red interior, privately for sale in Colorado with 27,000 original miles. Now, this car, it appears that it is likely sold. It didn't even ever hit the market. I will theorize with you that I think that this car sold probably in the upper 50s. I didn't ask what the sales price was, but that's between the buyer and the seller. But I think it's probably somewhere around that range. Now, it's been in Colorado its entire life. It's been completely Lexus serviced, and I'll get into the details here in a minute, but first we'll do the production info. 648 cars out of the 2,348 cars I've identified for all of the years for the US 49 everywhere except Hawaii were ultra white, paint code 083. Very common color, and of those 648, 360 of them had the red interior, which is the most common combination that exists for these cars. White with red interior. By far and above, this is the most common color that exists on these cars. Specific for 2016, 371 out of the 1,418 cars were ultra white. Of the 371, 212 had red interior. So this car is one of 212 that exist. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. Carfax shows this as a 3-owner, no accident car, and it looks like it was actually like a lease and someone bought out the lease. And so it's probably the same owner because Epic VIN shows it as a 2-owner, no accident car, and AutoCheck also shows it as a 2-owner, no accident car. So I'm pretty sure this car is a 2-owner, no accident car. The owner, when I talked to him, he said that he bought it certified pre-owned from Lexus. It's always been serviced at the Lexus dealer, and so that's basically the history of the service, and we'll get into that in a minute. Previous sales, April of 2022, $63,000, 12,500 miles in Colorado. That's it. That's the only time it's been publicly for sale. And that's obviously where the current owner acquired this car. So don't know if he paid the sticker price, but $63,000 is what they were asking then. And again, I'm theorizing that it probably sold in the upper 50s. So in the last 3 or so years, this owner didn't lose too much for depreciation because the values on these cars have stayed so strong. Now onto the pictures. Looking at the pictures, there's a couple things of note. So first and foremost, when I talked to the owner, he said that there are no carbon fiber issues. He's always had it serviced at Lexus. It's still under CPO warranty, so I don't know if that transfers, but I know that when you buy them CPO, you can get them out to like 7 or 8 years. So, you know, in theory, this car could still have warranty coverage for a couple more years. No valley plate leaks, the owner stated that. New front brakes at Lexus recently, and it has partial paint protection film on the front end and the side mirrors. He has the title in hand with no lien on it, even though as recently as July of 25, it says there's a loan or lien reported on the Carfax. He's owned it since May of 22. So remember he said it went on sale in April of 22, so he bought it within a month of it going on sale originally. I did note that it does not have paint protection film on the front bumper. It looks like it has the partial PPF on the fenders and the hood. It probably originally had it on the bumper would be my guess, but looking closely at the picture, so he provided me with a Dropbox full of high resolution pictures, just phenomenal pictures, some video. When you sell a car, that's how you do it. Take note, dealers. But I can zoom in very close. I can look at everything. I can look at tire dates, things like that. Looking at the pictures, one of the things I've noticed when you look at the front where the crash bar is, you can actually see white paint there. That's not what I would consider factory. There is a black foam piece that goes behind that, and that's normally what's there. So it's either painted over or it's missing. And so that would mean that the bumper has likely been off at some point. The other thing is it doesn't have paint protection film on the front bumper, so therefore there are quite a few chips and things like that. I've previously lived in Colorado, so I know even a low miles car can get pretty chipped up because they use gravel during the winters and they don't do a good job at cleaning it off during the summertime. So if you're following cars behind you, they flick that gravel up and it hits the front of your bumper. So that's probably what went on here. But if it were me, I'd probably get the bumper repainted, front bumper repainted, just to get rid of all the chips and things. But the carbon fiber on the front lip of the bumper, it looks like it's got some chipping and things like that. But again, having lived there, I understand that, you know, why it gets chipped up, even though this car's only got 27,000 miles. So I don't think that's anything to be concerned with, but it would be something that I would bring up and bring to attention if you're going to keep this car as a low mile, nice day type of car, if you want to make it perfect. The other thing, the paint protection film, it's looking like it's starting to yellow. I would, you know, You've heard me talk about in other videos, 7 to 10 years we used to install this stuff. 7 to 10 years is kind of the max you want to leave this on that car. So this car being 9 years old, you can see it's starting to yellow. I would remove it immediately and get it replaced. And that's just me, but if you let that sit on there too long, it starts to crack and you're going to be in for a world of hurt to remove that paint protection film when it gets that bad. Another thing I noticed is on the driver's side, right where you enter and exit, looks like the shoes were dragged along the side skirts, so there's some scratches and things there. That looks like they're probably minor, so they could probably polish out. It does have a couple little chips around that area too. And I did notice too on the back bumper, it looks like maybe the garage door hit it coming down, so it's got some scrapes right there, right under the back bumper. So I guess if you were a perfectionist and wanted everything to be perfect, you'd have to repaint the front and rear bumpers, refinish the front carbon fiber lip, and maybe something on the driver's entry and exit side. That's about all I see. Replace the paint protection film, of course. So because there are super high resolution photos, you can see things like tire date codes. So the front tires have 2021 date codes. The rear tires have 2023 date codes. So they're still all right. 3 and 4 year old tires, no issues there, but it's something of note. The owner said that the front brakes were recently done, so that makes me look at the rear brakes. If you look closely at the rear brakes, you can start to see kind of a lip on the edge of the rotors. You're probably going to be due for rear brakes fairly soon, something to put some money aside for. Valley plate leak, obviously it hasn't been done yet, but it's something that will be needed to be done in the future, so set money aside for that. Carbon fiber trim. Carbon fiber is all original. Again, you may have that issue in the future, but this car right now, it's not affected. So the lower control arm bushings, just all of the normal common issues that this car has just not had it yet because it has low miles. So that is something to consider in the future. If you are the purchaser of this car or if you are buying this car in the future, that's definitely something to be aware of, that you're gonna have to put some money in this car in the future, not immediately, but in the future it will need some things addressed. Things of note from the service history, pretty straightforward, just regular stuff up until 2022. May of 22, the JLB recall was finally done on this car, so that's the high pressure fuel pumps. Good to see that that's done. About 90+% of these cars have had it done. This is no exception. Also in May of 22, at about 13,500 miles, remember this has 27,000 now, 13,500 miles, the low pressure fuel pump customer service program was performed, so that's the humming or buzzing that you may hear in the back seat. They reprogram it, that goes away, so that's done. They also had the 19LE05, which is the GPS update done, where if you're driving here, it shows you off to the side, something like that. That was done, but it was done for a different reason. They said that they weren't able to connect to the Lexus Inform app. It said it wouldn't let him buy the subscription. That's actually because the 3G service, these cars had 3G cellular modems, that technology had sunsetted, so you couldn't use it anymore, but they did the update anyway. And so the 18s to 20s have a 4G cellular modem where you can still remote start the car through it and things like that. But technology, it evolves, and unfortunately it's gone away. I am working with another owner on working on retrofitting the older cars to the 4G modem so we can have our remote start and everything back. At that same service, they noted the passenger rear bumper was popping out, and they just pushed it back in and reset it, and hasn't been an issue since then. And then the final service in March of 2025, front brakes, so fairly recently front brakes, and that was at 27,000 miles. So hasn't been driven a whole lot since then, and has new front brakes. Pricing on this car, I think that based on where the market is for a clean title, 2-owner, no accidents, has a certified pre-owned warranty too, so there is some value there. But it does have a couple things that need attention, and I would theorize this car is probably like $58,000 to $60,000. I think on the private market, that's where this car is, even though you're gonna have to put a little bit of money into it. I'm not sure if I'm right, but in theory, you could probably go down to like 55, 56, but I think it's upper 50s, lower 60s is probably where this car sold, I'm just guessing. And so would I buy this car? I absolutely would buy this car. The price, I think that, as I said, upper 50s is probably where it is, and I would buy this car at that. That's where the market is spoken, where these low mile cars are. This is one of those cars that is clean title, no accidents, and you've heard me talk about in other videos. There's less than 1,000 GSFs in the US that are that way, that are clean title, no accidents. And so this being one of them, you know, it's definitely on the nicer side or more desirable of the list of cars you would want to buy. The big question mark I have with this car is what's going on with that front bumper, and of course a little bit of the minor paint damage and paint protection film replacement that would need to be done. And then of course none of the common issues have been addressed because it hasn't had them. And so I think as you get some miles on this car, if you're going to buy it and drive it, then you may have a couple of those common issues you have to address later on. I think it's one of the good ones, and if it did sell, but if it doesn't, then we'll see it on the market here soon. But it definitely looks like a great car, and with a little bit of attention needed, but you know, minor in the grand scheme of things. It is a clean title, no accidents car, so drive it, buy it, go enjoy it, and it'll be a great car for you. So that is VIN 1908. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.